It is one of the most clandestine missions our community does. Very, very, very compartmentalized. So the operations themselves, most people will never hear about. Even the regulars, like the SEAL teams, don't know what SDVs are doing.
I haven't talked much about it on the show, the SDV.
Yeah, no one talks about it much.
Delivery vehicles. I'm fascinated with the job.
Yeah.
I love the water.
Yeah.
I love diving.
So do
I love combat dive operations, but I don't know if I'd like that job. I mean, I guess it depends what your role is. But,
yeah.
But it's fascinating to me. You got, many submersibles that are both, I think enclosed and unenclosed, and I'm not sure what.
That's right.
I know some areas things you can talk about, can't.
Sure.
But I'd love for you to just educate the audience on what SDV operations are and how it's different than what everybody else
absolutely
imagines a Navy SEAL to do.
Absolutely. So it's a great question, and you're right. There's not a lot out there deliberately. It is one of the most clandestine missions our community does, and so very, very, very compartmentalized. So the operations themselves, most people will never hear about. Like you don't even the regulars, like the SEAL teams, don't know what SDVs are doing. Great example. When I was an executive officer at our training command, 2 guys came from SDV Team 1 and like E6s. And their award came through. By the time they came to our command, their award had been in the system from what they had done in the undersea community. And we gave them the awards there in front of the Buds compound, and they were Legions of Merit. For those that don't know, like, that's a pretty high award.
Right.
I don't have a Legion of Merit. And these 2 E6s were getting it for an op they did. And the write-up was pretty much, did some really cool things undersea that no one will ever hear about. Congratulations. Here's your Legion of Merit. Sure. And that was pretty much the write-up. So it's very hush-hush. That said, we can talk about what it is in concept. It's brutal. It's brutal. Yeah. I've heard guys joke. I think Jay Redmond was joking with you on his episode here, but you'll be colder and wetter in the teams 100% if you go undersea, if you go SDV, but it makes you hard as nails as well. So it's a very slow, methodical, patient mission set, which just takes time underwater to accomplish. It's the same type of missions that the regular SEAL teams do and DEVGRU does, but it's at a smaller scale because you can only fit so many people in the back of these things. So think long range reconnaissance type operations, sneaky peeky, you're in, you're out. No one knows you're there, hopefully. And you can get to some really denied areas of the world when you go underwater. We launch these things from submarines sometimes.
So in a mini submersible, right? Because they're less detectable.
And they fill with, like you said, we have a dry one in our inventory now. That's unclassified. It's out there. But for the majority of our existence, it's been a wet submersible, which basically means you're in an enclosed tube that fills with water, and it's powered, and it's got electronics and some sonar stuff on it. And you can bring different payloads with you wherever you want to go, whatever you want to do. And that mission's evolved over the years, depending on technology, warfare, munitions, all the things. And so it involves SEALs and divers sometimes getting in these things, filling with water, and off you go for as long as you can stand underwater. Depending on, of course, temperature and air, those are our limiting factors. And
then you get warm suit. Do you guys use warm suits?
So we do
warm water suits.
We do. We go back and forth on which ones we use depending on the mission. And there's pros and cons to it all. When you measure out risk to mission, risk to force, the better insulation you have, the better your risk to force is. But saltwater and electronics don't go well. And if you're wearing a dry suit and you get one puncture in a dry suit, well, that's a mission kill. So it's a high risk to mission when you're when you're doing that. Sometimes it's necessary, but you're always weighing those risks as we decide how are we going to equip the guys for this op? How miserable is it going to be? How much misery can they endure? One of my favorite stories I like to tell about resiliency. So it actually works out really well. Yeah. When I was the commander of SDV Team 1 out in Hawaii, we were developing a new capability, and I can't go too much into it, but the idea is that with these new types of suits, we were going to be able to dive longer in colder water, but it was all experimental. So we were proposing this new concept, which is going to open the aperture for where we could go and what we could do. And this had presidential level awareness. It was a game changer. But as we're talking about it, I said, hey guys, this is all theory. So we reached out to Navy Experimental Diving Unit and said, hey, what's the data on this? What are the stats on human survivability in really, really cold water for really long times? And they said, there is none. No one's really ever done this, what you guys are talking about doing here. So we said, I told the guys, it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to ask people to do. I said, hey, if we're going to talk about this concept, we have to prove we can do it to the president. So we're going to have to show him we can do it. And I said, what does that mean? I said, well, we're going to bring in a big refrigerator and we're going to cool our pool down in Hawaii on Oahu down to 34 degrees, big concrete pool. And then we're going to need you guys to sit in there for 9 to 10 hours and do a dive in a concrete pool, just staring at a brick wall. And then we're going to bring in these PhD experts who are going to put sensors all over you and they're going to assess your core temp the whole time. And then we're going to bring you up every hour or so and do a quick iPad kind of cognitive test to see if your cognitive processing slows down or if that's danger. So we can characterize and quantify the risk if we want to actually advertise we can do this capability. And, it's this quiet room as all these dudes are looking at me. They're like, you want us to do a 9 to 10 hour dive in a concrete pool in 34-degree water? I'm like, yeah, it's going to suck. And this one senior enlisted guy just stands up. He's like, it's got to be done. Yeah. If we're going to advertise the capability, we got to do it, dudes. And so they rallied and they did it. And I don't think I've ever seen in my life dudes show more resiliency than that. You talk about going to a dark place.
Well, yeah, it's not even the cold, right? It's the mental.
Everything.
Just being in. There's no communication,
dude. So we do have underwater comms, which is great.
That's
but you're
in your mind a lot, though.
But it's miserable, and you're just your mind. I mean, 10 hours, dude. Come on.
Yeah.
No TVs, nothing like that. And so I put on my wetsuit and a scuba tank and went in with them for about an hour or two. And I went down there. One guy's down there with an Rubik's cube, just trying to keep his mind busy. 2 other dudes had like a lacrosse ball. I think it was heavy enough that they were just passing it back and forth from like you to me underwater. And they did it. And they came up at the end of it. We had a bunch of pizza. We're celebrating. They were telling jokes. It was so impressive to see the level of resiliency and resolve and just commitment to the nation, really. Like, we're going to endure this suffering with no real return on that. No promise of a return. Right. We don't know if we're going to go get an op that does this stuff, but this is a capability that we want to show the nation we were willing to do for them. It was just it blew my mind. I've never been more proud.
Is that the longest? What's the longest you've seen the SDV guy underwater?
The longest I've heard of is about 14 hours. I think.
Yeah,
I think that's the longest one I've heard of. Yeah,
that's incredible.
It's a long time.
Time goes a lot slower.
A lot
when
slower
you're underwater.
And what people don't realize too is you could be diving in the Caribbean, but if that water is not the same as your core temp, over time you're going to get hypothermic.
Yes,
it could be 95-degree water. It's like a hot bath, but over time, next thing you know, you're jackhammering, and it is absolutely excruciating.
Yeah. I'll tell you that a lot of the SDV guys that I've met have been some of them are a little weird. So yes. You're probably the most not normal one I've met.
Yeah, that's funny. It's true. I mean, you've got to be not quite right in the head to willingly endure that kind of suffering, because you don't have to go SDVs. You can avoid it your whole career.
Okay.
I say that SDVs they're kind of like the development group of undersea. Mm-hmm. That's how we should think of them. It's not like everyone knows what development group is, and it's this tier 1 premier unit that does all these great things, but it's a very small slice of the pie. What they're great at, the undersea piece. Yeah, no one can touch what SDVs does. They are world class, the absolute best. What a privilege that I was able to do both of those commands in my career and see such expertise in different realms and vastly different cultures too. That's a very interesting thing I saw as well.
Very, yeah.
I mean, your culture as an organization is very much defined by what's your priority. And like DEVGRU, if your priority is hostage rescue, time-sensitive targeting, counterterrorism missions, well, that's what does well there. That personality that thrives in that kind of environment does well there. So that becomes your culture. We've said it before, wolves with table manners is what DEVGRU likes and looks for. Not my quote. Preston Klein said that one from Mission Critical Teams Institute. Phenomenal human being, great insights. But in contrast, undersea, it is not time-sensitive targeting. It is slow, methodical, deliberate, months of planning, rehearsing with the submarine force. The rapport you need to build with the submarine force to go execute a mission is insane levels of planning and rehearsals. So very, very slow, very, very patient, very, very deliberate, completely different organizational cultures.